Are you looking forward to playing set 8 over the weekend, but you don't know where to start? Well, I have the perfect comp for you to try. It requires minimal setup with maximum effect, introducing the zero mana lock Soraka. This build is capable of reducing your opponents to a pile of ash within a single second. This completely broken build is possible because Riot forgot to give Soraka any mana lock at all. All it takes is a single takedown to start a snowball reaction that will make Soraka cast with no delays and no auto attacks in between. It is absolutely hilarious to look at when it works, and it will leave your opponents completely in the dust. So let me give you a full rundown on how to recreate this setup. But just before we get started, if you are interested in learning about cool new interactions in set 8, why not subscribe and be the first to learn about cool new bugs, how to avoid them, useful tips to improve your gameplay, and of course, broken comps to try and ladder. First things first, we need to take a closer look at how Soraka's ability actually works. When she reaches full mana, she will fire a star at her current auto attack target. But every 3 casts, she will instead fire a star at the 3 closest enemies at the same time. She has a fairly low mana pool, requiring only 40 mana in total, and our goal is to create a setup that gets her to full mana every time her ability is able to take down a unit. There are actually a few different ways to achieve this, which is nice because if you're looking to force this comp, you have a higher chance at recreating a functional setup. The first way is the simplest, but it requires the specific augment Axiom Arc. It has a silver version granting you 20 mana per kill and a gold version granting you 30 mana. Thankfully, this is fairly simple because all we need here is a blue buff for Soraka. The new blue buff will reduce her mana by 10 and also grant 10 mana per kill. Together with either Axiom Arc, you will reach 30 or more mana per takedown, which is enough to start her cast chain, as long as you have enough damage. The second way is a bit more difficult, and you do need to pay attention to your admin programs. When you first put admin on the board, you're looking for the program that gives you any buff on enemy death. This is important because when we add 4 admin, the second program will be based on this condition. Here we are looking for the option to gain 20 mana. In this example, my admin units gained a max HP shield and some mana for each enemy unit that kicked the bucket. Together with blue buff, we reach the magic number 30 again, and the setup works. The third way is probably the most difficult as it requires 2 very specific outcomes. First, we will need the blue battery augment. Since blue buff got reworked, there's no more conflict between combining the two, and we can make use of this to grant us 10 mana after each ability cast. But if we would run a normal blue buff here, we would only receive 20 mana if we get a takedown, so we are still short 10. This is why for this setup, we will require a radiant blue buff. Instead of 10 mana, it grants us 20, which fulfills the condition, and Soraka can continuously cast. So in most cases you will end up running Soraka with a blue buff and 2 damage items. You can aim for 2 jeweled gauntlets to increase your crit chance or run a Rabadons for more AP. It doesn't have to be those items specifically, but just put the focus on maximizing her damage and avoid utility items like a Gunblade or a Hand of Justice, since you're not gonna need them anyways. Now let's take a look at what the rest of the comp should look like. I would always recommend that you add Blitzcrank, Camille and LeBlanc to enable for admin, so you can aim for strong combat programs granting you either mana, shields or AP. For the frontline, I would recommend giving Blitzcrank a Stoneplate and a Vamox and run him isolated in the first row. This makes him extremely hard to get rid of and pretty much grants you a strong early and mid game. I recommend running at least 1 additional brawler to get more value out of your frontline items. Usually here you're looking to run a Lee Sin or a Riven until you find Sejuani. All 4 admin units together with a brawler complete the core of this comp, and from here on out we become a little bit more flexible with the units we can add. I would recommend checking out the weather forecast from Jenna, and yeah, while you could technically always run her, I tend to favor her with the windy forecast as this will give you a bunch of AP, making your Soraka even stronger. Running the civilian trait is usually not necessary since you're looking to create a strong Soraka that will pretty much one-tap the entire enemy board in a domino effect, so civilians would only be useful in a setup that technically isn't working yet. As for other units, you should definitely add at least 1 hard unit, usually Lee Sin or Sona, and towards the late game you're looking to add Syndra. It's possible to go more vertical in the hard trait, but it's not necessary for this comp to make it work. Good additions in late game are also Mordekaiser for magic damage and magic pen, Urgot for utility, Zack and Echo for additional frontline, or run a tech unit like Leona to make use of her true damage to get rid of super annoying frontline tanks that are running Dragon's Claw. As for positioning, it depends a bit on your items and opponents. If you're facing a strong Mordekaiser, Sejuani or Fiddlesticks, you really want to spread out and You know, you want to avoid maximizing the Janna fields because it's way more important that your team actually survives. Make sure Soraka is positioned in a way so she doesn't get stuck at the start, and then you should be good to go. Now I'll be honest here, there is a fair chance that this interaction is not intended and might be gone next week, so if you're looking for something fun to try out in set 8, now is the best time for it. Let me know in the comments how it worked out for you, and other than that, I hope you learned something, and see you next time.